Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Rook, and this is a series chronicling my adventures in Norath playing as a high elf enchanter named Net. In the last episode, we traveled from Greater Fadark to the East Common Lands in order to make some cash while leveling to afford spells and some basic equipment. In this episode, I've reached level 12, and so having bought those items and unlocked the ability to charm monsters, we return to Fadwar in order to hunt the popular Sisters camp in Lesser Fadark. As you may have noticed in my last video, I'm re-recording these earlier levels and Net is actually level 23. Given that this camp is somewhat popular, I didn't want to take it as a higher level character just to get footage. So the camp footage in this video is going to be from the perspective of a ranger that I've been leveling with some friends of mine. As mentioned in my last video, levels 12 to 15 are when the game turns on for many classes. Enchanters unlock Charm at level 12, which unlocks Charm soloing as a strategy, something I'll go into more depth on in a later video. Necromancers unlock a Snare, an undead-specific fear spell, and a bunch of damage over time spells at level 12, allowing them to fight undead with a small mana investment and little danger. This is known as fear kiting. They then unlock a root at level 16, allowing the strategy known as root rotting to work against non-undead monsters as well. Druids unlock the ability to charm animals at level 14, giving them the option to charm solo in outdoor zones. More than that, and for classes that aren't the specific solo powerhouses of P99, you gain a lot of options at this threshold for areas to level in. You can go to Crushbone in Greater Fadark and collect Orcish belts and shoulder pads for the bounty in Caladim, or you could go to Blackborough on the western side of Antonica and collect Knoll Fangs for the bounty in Hallis. There's Guck and Runny-Eye and the Warrens and Befallen and the Estate of Unrest, and that's just some of the named dungeons that you're able to start working your way through at this level. That's not even mentioning any of the overland areas that you can start to hunt at this level as well. I intend to make a more comprehensive beginner's guide that covers a lot of this stuff, as nothing like that has been made to my knowledge, and I see a lot of new players struggling with this part of the game to some extent. It's going to be a bit more involved than these sorts of videos, so if you're interested in that, write a comment here on Reddit so that I know to bump it up in my video queue and release it a bit earlier. But back to Net's adventures. We're going to be visiting none of those dungeons, and instead we're going to be heading back to Lesser Fadark to camp the Nybright sisters. This is a super popular camp because there are 4 bandits, all level 12, who all have a high chance to carry bronze weapons, which are worth between 2 and 4 platinum apiece. More than that, there's a small ranger encampment a short distance from the camp. Generally, this wouldn't be very lucrative, even considering the valuable weapons, as they weigh a bunch, and frequently selling the weapons off would add a lot of time. But the short distance between this camp and the vendors means that you're able to sell the weapons frequently and change your money out very easily, keeping your weight low and allowing you to hold the camp for a long time and make a ton of money. The amount of money you're able to make is going to depend somewhat on the gear that you bring to the camp and the class that you play, but the rate should be around 50 platinum an hour if you're clearing the camp consistently as it spawns. One thing I didn't really talk about in my last video is how exactly you gear a low-level character, particularly when you have very little money to actually do so. In total, after my last video I made about 200 platinum from all the random things I was able to sell. With that I bought a decent robe and some random cheap gear that gives charisma. For your characters in this situation, what you should spend your hard-earned plat on depends on if your character is a melee class or a caster class. If you're a melee character, spending between 75 to 200 platinum on a weapon is of paramount importance, and is the largest value you can get from your platinum at this point. After that are pieces of gear that give high armor class. Armor class in this game not only affects your chance to get hit, but also your damage mitigation, so increasing that will significantly increase the effective health you have in any given fight. Suits of bandit armor are frequent purchases for low-level melee classes due to their high AC bonus and relatively low weight. For casters, gear is less important, but depending on what class you're playing specifically, either intelligence or wisdom will dictate the size of your total mana pool. For enchanters and bards, charisma dictates how successful your charm effects are, and is incredibly important in that endeavor, but for everyone else only affects the prices merchants will charge and give you for goods. As you may recall from my last video, I don't particularly enjoy the Fadarks, and I enjoy Lesser Fadark significantly less than I even enjoy Greater Fadark. Lesser Fadark is just as large as Greater Fadark, but is filled with incredibly aggressive, very hard to see creatures at mid to high level that path all over the place. Brownies are the most apparent, with Brownie scouts being level 42 druids and aggressive to everybody. In addition, be on your guard for shadowed men as they're invisible, run faster than Spirit of Wolf, and are level 26. There's also a unicorn that spawns occasionally, Equestriel. I can't speak to the regular Equestriel as I never saw her spawn, but she also spawns as an evil Shadow Knight version of herself, Equestriel the Corrupted, who wanders near the sister camp and will harm touch you for 400 damage, and will generally instantly kill you. I did this camp as a level 12 enchanter with mediocre gear and died a few times, but it was largely tenable. However, I couldn't reliably clear it on my ranger, who had an okay weapon, until I was level 15. The sisters social aggro with each other, even if they aren't aggressive to people wandering through. As a result, the way to break this camp is to first attack Kayla, the sister farthest from the camp. You then pull Shayla, the sister closest to her, through this spot in between the tent and this tree where she won't aggro her two other sisters. Finally, you have to fight the last two, Jayla and Tayla, at the same time, so splitting them with some form of CC is advised. The farthest sister into the camp has a tendency to spawn at a lower level than her other sisters, so this fight is typically easier than it seems to be compared to the other fights. The way back to the merchant is really simple and only requires you to follow along the top of the ridge immediately behind you as you're doing this camp. There are generally mithril earrings in the merchant's inventory, and these can be bought and resold to convert your money into plat, which weighs less and allows you to stay at the camp longer. Given that this is a fairly popular camp, it will frequently be taken. However, there's a similar but marginally less lucrative and more dangerous camp up to the north. Here, there are 3 unnamed bandits, which are warrior class instead of rogue class, so they have a bit more HP, but they still drop bronze weapons. There is no clean way to break this camp though, so you need to have some way to split them with CC. If you're an evil race, you can't sell to the Wood Elf Ranger camp, which makes this much more difficult. I've heard there are vendors in Steamfont who will deal with evil races, but I don't know which of them there are, and I can't confirm the veracity of those claims. These sisters are also involved in a quest line. Back in Kelethin, there is a high elf drunkard who wanders around the platforms. If you speak to him, he'll ask you for some spare coppers. If you hand him some elven wine, he'll say, "Oh, thank you. Oh, what has become of me? Look at me. I was great once. I wish I never had that shocking experience." And he won't give you anything, and this is pretty pitiful, but back in Felwith, at the Paladin Guild Hall, one of the Paladin Guild Masters, Tinkle, will give you more context. If you hail him, he will say, "Hail, noble Net. Can you be of service to the clerics of Tunare, or are you not from our order?" Then if you respond that you are able to be of service to the clerics of Tunare, he will reply, "That is good. Prove yourself, then. Are you new to Felwith, or have I been conversing with a veteran of the good fight?" If your response is that you are new to Felwith, he will then state, "Then stand at attention when I speak. I want you to venture to Kelethin and seek out Tandon Nybright. He is an old member of ours. He has had some hardships and fallen from Tunare's grace, yet he is still a member of our family. He will be the one who reeks of elven wine. Greet him by name. We are worried for him." And if you travel to Kelethin and greet the drunkard by his name, he responds, "How did you know my name? You must be from Felwith. Excuse my condition. I am not the man I once was. I have had a shocking experience." If you ask him what shocking experience he has had, he will respond, "My daughters have become bloodthirsty bandits. They went off to Antonica, and when they returned, they became bandits. They now attack every poor traveler who happens upon them. They have disgraced the name of Nybright. Will you hunt the Nybright sisters, or is this not to your liking?" If you then tell him that you will hunt his daughters, he will say, "I am most grateful. Many adventurers would not help me with this matter. Go and seek out the Nybright sisters. I gave each of the 4 a personalized necklace. Return them all to me when the deeds are done, and may the tribunal watch over you." If you kill his daughters and return to him with the 4 necklaces, he says, "This is a sad day, but it was the just thing to do. The Nybright name will no longer be tarnished. Here you are, my friend. This is a bit neglected, but it is yours. My warrior days are over. Now go. I must be alone." And so on this solemn mission, Net returns to Fadewar to help his city of Felwith deal with a disgraced member of its knightly order. Hunting the bandit group that these sisters belonged to proved to be lucrative indeed, and soon Net amassed a small fortune. More than that, his magical abilities also continued to grow. Individuals bent before his whims, and he could turn fearsome creatures into mighty allies who would battle on his behalf. Dangerous locations, which would prove certain death for other adventurers, offered instead valuable opportunities for a mage with his skills. Hunting bandits quickly became trivially easy, and even if it was still lucrative, Net longed for a true test of his abilities. In the interest of learning the extent of his capabilities, he begins to prepare for another journey which will take him across the Ocean of Tears, this time terminating past High Pass Hold in the plains of Karana.